In the top stories, Ministry of Education attends Transforming Education and Policy Symposium. Professor Warrican calls for bold reforms to transform Caribbean education. And Hurricane Milton weakens but threatens Florida's Gulf Coast. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. I'm your presenter, Shanique Harvey. Nationally, the Ministry of Education of St. Kitts and Nevis took part in the Transforming Education and Policy Dialogue Symposium held from October 2nd to 4th at the Ritz-Carlton in Grand Cayman, Cayman Islands. The event, coordinated by the Caribbean Development Bank in collaboration with the OECS Commission and other regional organizations, brought together key stakeholders to discuss the future of education in the region. The symposium attracted a diverse audience, including ministers of education, policymakers, educators, students, youth, and development partners who engaged in a series of keynote address, panel discussions, and breakout sessions. These sessions focused on three central pillars: transforming educational leadership, re-envisioning teaching and learning practices, as well as expanding access to education. Representing St. Kitts and Nevis were Honorable Troy Liburd, Minister of Education in the Nevis Island Administration, Lisa Romaine Pistana, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, St. Kitts, Zanella Claxton, Permanent Secretary in the Department of Education, Nevis, Dr. Courtney Thompson, Chief Executive Officer, TVET Secretariat, and Amanda Sarant Edmead, Acting Director of Curriculum Development Unit. This event provided a platform for meaningful exchanges to shape actionable policies to enhance education systems across the Caribbean. In observance of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Reach for Recovery SKB is urging the public to take advantage of the Pink Zone, the organization's dedicated breast cancer facility, which offers free screenings and consultations every Saturday throughout the year. The Pink Zone, located at OJ's Complex, Keon Street, Basse-Terre, provides a range of services including breast screening, body mass index or BMI assessments, and information sharing sessions with a volunteer nurse. These services are offered from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. each Saturday, creating a safe and supportive environment for both men and women seeking professional, confidential advice without financial burden. Established in 2022, the Pink Zone was designed to serve as a comfortable and accessible space for the public to receive health checks and breast cancer education. Visitors can also relax, purchase pink memorabilia in support of the cause, and learn more about their breast health. Quote, "We encourage both men and women to visit the Pink Zone, not just during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but year-round to take full advantage of these free services," said a representative from Reach for Recovery SKB. "We are here to help, and we're committed to providing ongoing support and early detection services," end quote. For further information, the public is invited to contact Reach for Recovery SKB at 869-667-3224 or visit their Facebook page at Reach for Recovery SKB Breast Cancer Support Group. The British Virgin Islands will host the 2024 Haynes Smith Miss Caribbean Teen Pageant. Andre Hewitt tells us about the now roaming Caribbean show.
12 contestants are announced for the 2024 Haynes Smith Miss Caribbean Talented Teen Pageant. The pageant, for the first time in its over 40-year history, will be held in the British Virgin Islands on Sunday, December 29th, and will see the participation of 2 new territories and the return of others after a long hiatus. Montserrat is back in the competition for the first time in over 25 years, while Puerto Rico returns after some 20 years away from the pageant. For the first time, there will be a contestant from the Turks and Caicos Islands and St. John's U.S. Virgin Islands. The reigning queen is Takila Hart Johnson, Miss St. Kitts. The anticipation for this prestigious pageant has been high as more than 12 countries applied to participate. However, the organizers had to limit the number of contestants to 12. Hence, other contestants had to be placed on hold for further reference. The 12 contestants are Miss Antigua and Barbuda Gabrielle Nia Hamlet, Miss BVI Asha Hindeman, Miss Haiti Sarah Gourissier, Miss Montserrat Clarissa Chambers, Miss Puerto Rico Lianis Lopez, Miss St. Croix Lachey DeGaro, Miss St. John Shania Freeman, Miss St. Kitts Caitlin Wilson, Miss Dutch St. Martin Shiloh Bedminster, Miss St. Thomas Caricia Caesar, Miss St. Vincent and the Grenadines Abigail Ross, and Miss Turks and Caicos Samantha Ordain. Meanwhile, Rupert Vanterpool, speaking on behalf of the organizers, the Miss Teen British Virgin Islands Committee, said they are extremely honored and excited to be the first ever country outside of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to host the Haynes Smith Miss Caribbean Talented Teen Pageant. He added, quote, "As we prepare to welcome 12 delegates representing their Caribbean island nations to the shores of the BVI, we are committed to ensuring that this experience of the 42nd edition of the Haynes Smith Caribbean Talented Teen Pageant will be enjoyable, educational, recreational, and a meaningful experience." While we in the British Virgin Islands look forward to this first event experience, we happily are prepared to serve as the most gracious host, and we thank the Haynes Smith Youth Club Committee for entrusting us with this pageant.
We move now to news on the regional scene. Professor Joel Warrican, director of the Caribbean Educational Research Center, has outlined key strategies to revolutionize education in the Caribbean. Speaking at the Regional Symposium and Policy Dialogue on Transforming Education on October 3, 2024, he emphasized the need to integrate technology, make curricula culturally relevant, prioritize critical communication skills, assess students for learning rather than certification, and promote teacher adaptability. In his keynote address, Indigenizing and Decolonizing Education for National and Regional Transformation, Warrican highlighted the colonial legacy of hierarchical school structures, Eurocentric curricula, and rote learning. These issues, he argued, have led to societal stratification and stifled entrepreneurial thinking across the region. Professor Warrican, a PhD in education, language, and literacy from the University of the West Indies, said, quote, "Our education system didn't encourage entrepreneurial thinking," end quote. He called for courageous leadership and unified research-driven approach to education reform, urging Caribbean nations to work collectively rather than individually. Warrican also advocated for locally developed innovations that meet global standards, while reducing reliance on donor-funded models. He emphasized the need for long-term financial commitment to ensure lasting transformation in Caribbean education. The three-day symposium, hosted by the Caribbean Development Bank in collaboration with CARICOM, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Commission, and the University of the West Indies, launched a month-long series of events to advance education reform in the region. Meanwhile, Leslie Voltaire was sworn in as the new leader of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council on Monday, replacing Edgar Leblanc Fiel. The leadership change comes as the council faces serious corruption allegations involving 3 of its members. Voltaire takes over the council, which was formed earlier this year after gang violence forced Haiti's former prime minister to resign. In his speech, Voltaire pledged transparency and expressed dissatisfaction with the country's security situation, vowing to restore stability. He called for the moment of silence to honor the 70 victims of a recent massacre in Pont-Sunday, central Haiti. The council, working with Prime Minister Gary Connell, is responsible for governing Haiti and organizing elections by February 2026. However, recent corruption allegations against 3 council members have cast a shadow over its leadership. The 3 accused of demanding $750,000 to secure a government job have denied the claims. All three members attended Monday's ceremony but declined to comment. Voltaire did not take questions, and the council has vowed to take immediate action to stabilize the state. Internationally, Hurricane Milton weakened slightly on Tuesday, but remained a significant threat, potentially delivering a historic direct hit to Tampa and St. Petersburg with winds at 155 miles per hour. The storm is moving toward Florida's west coast, prompting hurricane warnings across the region. The Tampa Bay area is expected to experience landfall on Wednesday night, with evacuation orders in place for areas near the bay and mobile homes. Residents have expressed frustration over slow debris collection from previous storms, with concerns about flying projectiles if Milton strikes. The National Hurricane Center downgraded Milton to a Category 4 hurricane, but warned it still poses an extremely serious threat. Emergency officials are urging residents to prepare by assembling emergency kits and stocking up on supplies as a storm surge of 10 to 15 feet is anticipated. President Biden has approved an emergency declaration for Florida, mobilizing about 7,000 federal workers for relief efforts. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor stressed the importance of preparedness, noting, quote, "If you want to take on Mother Nature, she wins 100% of the time," end quote. As many residents evacuate, the area continues to recover from Hurricane Helene, which struck just days ago, leaving behind significant destruction. Concerns about Milton are causing widespread anxiety as preparations ramp up ahead of the storm's expected arrival. And finally, in international news, in a recent interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast, Vice President Kamala Harris focused on personal connection rather than policy details, saying, quote, "One of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real," end quote. As she campaigns for the presidency, Harris is still working to introduce herself to the electorate. With voting underway, Harris's media blitz in New York City aims to reach a broader audience, including appearances on The View, Howard Stern's show, and Stephen Colbert's late-night program. This marks a strategic shift after a period of limited media engagement since taking over the presidential ticket from President Biden. During her podcast conversation with host Alex Cooper, Harris discussed lessons from her mother, emphasizing the importance of agency in challenging situations. Harris's team is prioritizing these personal interactions to energize voters, particularly those who feel disconnected from traditional politics. Polls indicate that many Americans are still seeking more information about Harris. While she has unveiled some policy proposals, including tax credit increases and housing assistance, her campaign has largely focused on conveying her economic philosophy and positioning herself against Republican rival Donald Trump. And now for the weather. Present weather is fair skies. Winds are southeast at 5 to 14 miles per hour. The temperature for today is 32 degrees Celsius or 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. The weather forecast for today predicts mostly cloudy with an 80% or a very high chance of showers and a 40% or moderate chance of thunderstorms. Tonight will be cloudy with an 80% or moderate chance of showers. Sunset for today will be at 5:54 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:03 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your presenter, Shanique Harvey.